Welcome to the next in our series of Pump House virtual talks. Our guest today is Anne Rimmer. Anne's been involved in theatre for a very long time, and she's here to tell us about her experiences both on the stage here at the Pump House, but also when she grew up in Wellington. So I present to you today Anne Rimmer.
Thank you, Mags, and it's so nice to see you again. So yes, here's the Pump House, and I can't even tell you how long ago this was. That's Strindberg's The Stronger, and I've always loved the Pump House, and so have the rest of my family. I let my daughter know that I was giving this talk today, and she shot back with, "The Pump House, where I spent my childhood. I love that place." And I totally agree. It's got a fabulous atmosphere here. But anyway, we're going to talk about all sorts of places because I'm going to clip through very fast here. I got sent to a ballet school in Wellington. My big brothers were much tougher and stronger than me, and they went to Scouts, but I was a weak, sickly little child and I went to ballet school, and I'm glad I did because it's been a fabulous intro to the theatre and just been a thing of great importance all my life. Here I am, aged about 8, I'm a buttercup, and it was the second recital that this ballet school, Jean Horn's ballet school, did. And what they did in Wellington was they put these huge recitals on in the Wellington Opera House, which is an enormous theatre, and I'll show you pictures of it later. By the time I was about 11, I'd progressed to Pointe Shoes, which some people find incredibly painful. I seem to have chunky little feet, and that didn't bother me so much, so I really enjoyed it. I brought my Pointe Shoes for you to see. I haven't worn these for a very long time, but they hang on the back of my wardrobe as a memento. Now, they're satin, but they're very, very hard. They are made with glue, full of dust, and rosin, and all sorts of string and things inside. And if you've ever seen a ballet dancer preparing her shoes, she hammers them, she cuts them, she embroiders the toes, she does all sorts of things to them. These haven't been used much, but I did have some older ones, so this isn't the only pair I've had by any means. Should have ironed the ribbon. And again, back in the Opera House, by the age of 9, I was on stage in the Pied Piper, one of the pantomimes, and my teacher provided the children for all of the pantomimes in Wellington and all the musicals. So I was dancing, and I even had lines in this one. And what was really nice is this is the only time that I could be on stage with my father. That's Dad on the right. He was the mayor of Hamlin. And my father was a fabulous comedian, very good. So that was a wonderful experience. So I was totally hooked by now. We had the run of the Opera House, this magical place, and we could, you know, just enjoy the whole of the backstage and everything. It was just a fabulous experience. Now, it is in the blood, because here is my mother at about 1920s, I guess she must be about 13, 14, dancing in Harrogate in England. My parents were both English, and some nice costume, I like the butterfly wings. So that was Mum. She played the piano and danced, and Dad was, as I say, a really clever comedian. And here he is in Wellington in the 1950s, in She Stoops to Conquer. Now, he was actually a pharmacist, but when he arrived in Wellington just after the war, he did some work with the National Film Unit, filming documentaries. He made TV advertisements. He had a radio quiz. So he was relatively famous in Wellington. And I learned so much from him because he was just so clever. Here's the Opera House. It was done up again in the 1970s. It was opened in 1914. It's the most glorious Edwardian building. And here's the foyer, just gleaming, and then from the audience, that's what it looks like towards the stage, and later on I'll show you what it looks like backstage. Look at the boxes, because I spent many rehearsals and so on, sitting in the box, watching what was going on stage, and again, learning. And we, as I say, we were allowed the run of the theatre. So here I am at about age 13 in Cinderella. Nice position, I like the ballet position, and the ballet hands remain with you. Those graceful hands that you know how to hold just right, always stay. But of course the legs have to be very, very strong because you're always jumping and doing all sorts of peculiar things. And I was fairly good. I wasn't brilliant. I certainly couldn't have gone on a scholarship to London like some other people did in the school. But I was pretty good. And this is Cinderella, and we were in the ballroom, and then I was also a pony that called Cinderella's coach. We'll gloss over that. Here's what it looks like from the stage, looking into the auditorium. It's huge. It's got the stalls and the dress circle, and then the gods, the very steep things up the top, where I've seen lots of ballets. I even saw Margot Fontaine dancing from there. And backstage, here's the stairs that we used to run down from the third floor dressing room. Now, I know this is a funny thing to put on, but what I want to say is I still dream about running down those stairs to get to the stage on time. I can hear it, I can feel it, I can smell it. Look how warm the stairs are after such a long time of people charging up and down. So this is such an important memory. Then we moved on to not so much the ballet, but more acting. And here I am in Babes in the Wood with an Eye Review Club. And the lady on the left, who is my age, you may recognise her, some of you, because this is Kathy Sandy, who is here on the shore, and she both sings and acts, and she is known for her immaculate costumes, which I'll be able to show you a bit later. So that was lots of fun. And clearly finally grown up. This is Lionel Bart's Things Ain't What They Used to Be, a Cockney musical, and he wrote Oliver. So I got to play a Cockney tart on stage in my very padded top with the orange satin top and black lace and a very split skirt and mesh stockings and even a wig, wow. And not only did I act, I also danced, and we were doing a jive number. And it was Murray Hutchinson, who I think ended up being a presenter on Play School for quite a while. But Murray and I were doing this jive number, spin, twist, spin, and jump up, throw my legs around his waist, and jump down again. Murray had braces buttoned onto his trousers, and when I jumped up and wrapped my legs around his waist, my mesh stockings connected with his buttocks. When I jumped down again, my stockings unravelled across the stage. You're in the middle of a musical number, there's a flipping big audience out there, you keep dancing. And I don't remember what happened to all the black threads. Probably somebody ran behind us gathering them up. But you finish the dance, you get off stage, and you hang on to each other and you laugh till you cry at the absolute horror you have just endured on stage. And the stage manager's going to get you off because you're right in the wings. Yeah, that's a horror story. My mother, very proper, came to see the show, came backstage. How was it, Mum? Very nice, dear. That's what she said. So then I went to Canada, and I've missed a story, and I'm going to go back one, because I want to tell you about Peter Pan, but I don't have a picture for Peter Pan. Peter Pan was done by Wellington Repertory every 10 years. When I was 2.5, I went to the Wellington Opera House to see my father be a pirate in Peter Pan, and I do remember it. When I was 12, I was in the ballet, I was a wave, and I was a fairy with lights in my hair, and I remember that very well, and it was very nice. And when I was 22, I would have auditioned to play Peter, because I've always wanted to fly, but I was on my way to Canada, so I missed out. I want to tell you about flying. This is something that if I won a competition that I could do anything I wanted, I would ask to be allowed to fly on stage. I don't know how they do it now. It's probably done by mirrors and artificial intelligence and all sorts of things, but back then it was done for real. You hung on wires, and you had a very and I never did this, I'm telling you what Peter Pan did. You had a very padded harness around you and between your legs and things, and a clip on the back, so that when it was time to fly, you were clipped onto a wire. Now, you might start off stage high up and fly onto the stage and land on the stage, or you might be on stage and need to fly on the stage. So I'm sitting up in the dress circle of the Opera House watching one of the early rehearsals of Peter Pan showing Wendy and John and Michael the first time that he could fly. So here's Wendy in her nightie and John and Michael in their striped pyjamas. Peter, played by a girl of course, dressed in lovely green stuff, and they're all wired up by now, and they're walking on tiptoes because the wires are never quite the right length. And the 3 children standing on the floor, and Peter says, "Of course I can fly." And he jumps onto the bed and he says, "Watch me!" And Peter didn't move. But John and Michael rose up in the air like two sacks of potato and hung there, looking absolutely horrified. And then they were lowered down and everybody sat and cried for a while. And they relabelled the wires and the ropes off stage and kept going. So that's the flying story. Then I went to Canada. And I went on my OE in my early 20s and ended up staying 20 years. I married a very nice Canadian and I had two Canadian-born daughters who are now here in New Zealand. Some of the things that I managed to do, I got the principal role in one or two little plays. This is at the University of New Brunswick in Fredericton, New Brunswick, which is out on the east coast, a lovely, gracious old city. And this is Ring Around the Moon, and to be able to wear a beautiful, beautiful 1920s dress like that was just heaven. And it's very nice scenery. It was a beautifully done play. And I got to be Cecily in The Importance of Being Earnest, with a very talented young fellow. And there's some of the University of New Brunswick buildings in the background. It's a very classy place. And my husband David, who loved being on stage just as much as I did, here we are in The Boyfriend. I choreographed it. And that was the beach scene, sur la plage. Music halls, great fun. I can't really sing, but you can always fake it with a comic song. And I had a silly little dance in it, so that was great. Made lots of friends. So all our theatre people organised a Morris dance group. And here's the girls doing some folk dancing. I'm in the back left with the sun shining on me in the orange. And we had a maypole, we did proper maypole dancing, and the men did the Morris dancing and so on, and it was great. We danced at cathedral festivals and all sorts of things. So that was a lovely experience. And also I got to direct some big shows. And this was The Gondoliers, a very big production, all the trimmings in a big professional theatre, and it was but this is all amateur stuff, nobody's paying me. And it was wonderful fun. And this just shows you what you can do if you've got talented costume people, but not much money, because those gorgeous costumes are made with curtain material. But don't they look fabulous? And notice we've got an arrow in the middle of the screen. Let's see if we can get rid of it. There we go. And here's David in Iolanthe and me goofing around in the background. I think I was the choreographer. Then we moved to another part of Canada, which was small town Canada, and there was only quite small theatre, but we did do a lot. And I joined the local dancing class, the adult class, just for the fun of it. And my children went to the local ballet class and so on, and got to dance. And what was interesting was that they ordered the costumes from a catalogue from America, spent a lot of money on costumes, so I got to wear things like that. I've still got it. This is 1980s, apologies for the hair. And my husband David, in a medieval thing that we did, as a little entertainment, as the jester. Now this bit goes sad, because just a few weeks after this, he was killed in an accident, in a car crash, on icy roads, and our world fell apart. He was 40. My children, Meredith and Alex, were 11 and 7. And the thought of dealing with icy roads for the rest of my life terrified me. So within 6 months, I had fled back to New Zealand with the children. Once in New Zealand, we were introduced to the theatre here and how busy and active it is. And we all threw ourselves into it as a wonderful relief from the stress we'd been in, and also as a way of making friends. So here is Alex, I don't know how old she was here, about 9, 10, in The King and I, here in the Pump House. And that was a really great show. So this is North Shore Operatic, now North Shore Music Theatre. And it did fantastic musicals at that time, South Pacific, King and I, and La Cage aux Folles is one I remember because of the incredible costumes and quick changes of costumes and so on. So that was tremendous. Here's another one from The King and I. That was all very enjoyable, and I say I really, really love the Pump House. I've managed to direct on it once. I did Woman in Mind, an Alan Ayckbourn tragicomedy, which I liked very much. Then then some pantomimes down at the Company Theatre. This is King Arthur and the King and Queen Guinevere. And Helen Davies on the right, some people will know her as Mordred, and can't remember what her name is. And Tony Sandy, some of you will know as well. Tony is fabulous on stage, very genial and so on, but he, as he will be the first to admit, cannot remember any lines. You can give him a 3-word line and he will screw it up. So, but he looks great. He's a spear carrier here. Now I thought I would show you just a little bit about how I now do set design, which is the thing I tend to do most now, a bit of directing and some set design. And I really enjoy that because I'm a very visual person and I love colour and I love fabrics and things like that. So when you analyse a show, you have to work out where the entrances and exits are. Do you need anything special like a pond or a canal or something? And in this case what we're doing is again the gondoliers, but I'm just being the set designer, not the director. And the second act is set in the throne room of a fantasy kingdom called Barataria. So this is the throne room, and there's the throne. And I make these funny little models because then I can get sort of the proportions and work out how things would move round from Act 1 to Act 2 and so on. And I use my Playmobil people. Here's my Playmobil people. It's probably the same people, isn't it? That one's the same, this one's different. Got lots of these. They've been in lots of shows. So I do this. Now look at the little arch in the centre there, the 3 arch thing, because here it is, built. And the orange bit at the top is fake, it's flat, completely flat, but it's been painted with shadows, and from this distance it looks pretty good. I'm no artist really, I did the painting on this, but you can get away with murder on stage if you know what you're doing. And I'm very proud of the marbleizing because I've always wanted to do it and I've never done it before. So I think that looks really good. So then you put together the bits of the scenery, and here in an early bit, before it's all trimmed up and so on, is the little pieces that all go together. So you've got up on the right, you've got a little balcony that people could come out onto, and you've got all these entrances, and you've got that nice arch in the back, and the throne in a nice prominent position. And then when you light it and you put all the people on stage, you end up with that. And it looks fabulous. So that's how you do it. Smoke and mirrors. So that's the gondoliers up at Torbay. And sometime around there I got to be on stage for what is probably the last time, because I had to step in at just a moment's notice. I was directing and one of our actresses got very sick and just had to pull out. So in about a week I learned the lines and went on stage, and I'm meant to look like a dog, so don't worry about the costume. I'm really rather proud of that ridiculous costume. That was what the character required. It was very hard to learn the lines, of course, and we did have a prompt. And I remember James Carrick here, who was also struggling with his lines, and he stood on the grass of this garden and he said, "I can see my lines," he said. "They jump down onto the grass and run away giggling." And I thought, it's just right. And the other thing that I love is just this camaraderie of putting the show together in the background. It's called pack-in. You move in sort of 2 weeks before the show, you build the scenery, you paint the scenery, you put on doorknobs and curtains and all the trimmings. And here we are, the whole team of us, all creating a set, and I think it was called Caught in the Net, and all just working like crazy, and it looks mayhem, but we know what we're doing, and somebody's in charge, and it all gets done. And it's such fun. And finally, I just want to talk a little bit about a show I directed and did the set design for about 2 years ago down at Company. And this was Oscar Wilde's The Importance of Being Earnest. You knew you had a winner. You've got this brilliant script. I had lovely young people in the cast and some very experienced older people, and it was just a blast. So I did the set design and directed. Here's Act 1. So the first thing about this is there's no walls, there's no scenery. It's all the blacks that hang in a theatre normally. So you've got this island of light in the middle of the stage, and everything else is dark. So the actors stand out beautifully. And these gorgeous costumes are by Kathy Sandy, who just is miraculous. Now what I'm really proud of, and there are 3 acts we're going through, is the circles. Everything on this set is circular. You've got the circular carpet. You've got the ottoman, which in this case has got a gold cover on, and you've got gold throws on the chairs. You've got two green little tea tables with lovely gleaming silver tea services on, and they're round, and you've got little round end tables as well. And then at the back there's the pillars. So we'll talk about them later. So that's Act 1. Right. That's a London drawing room. Act 2 is a garden in a country house. Light, airy and beautiful. Here's a bit of it. There's the ottoman. It's had the top taken off and it's now got flowers in the middle of it, and it's a garden seat, a stone seat. Round tables, round balls of flowers arrangements, a curved hedge in the back, and gorgeous costumes, and over to one side a little seating arbour with the two pillars. Now, my marbleising has refined itself. This is the second go, and it's much more quiet, and I'm terribly proud of it. And these are an illusion, of course. This is a cardboard tube with a polystyrene ball on the top, and it's all painted, but it's very light. So when my actor wanted to do that, I had to make the point that no, that wasn't going to work. You couldn't even breathe together. I want to just pause at this point to tell another horror story that didn't happen in this play, but did happen down in the Rose Centre where this play was going on. It was in a Russian play, Chekhov, and long costumes, period costumes. There's a man and a woman on stage, and they've had a quarrel. The lady sinks into the chair sobbing, sob, 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 and her dress is arrayed out on the stage, sob, sob. The man goes hrumph, swirls his cloak, and storms off the stage. There were real candles on the stage. Now, I am petrified of fire on stage, and had it been my play, I would not have had real candles. But I was just somewhere in the back doing this. In swirling, the man caught a candle. It fell off onto the stage. It rolled under the hem of the actress's dress. The man didn't know he had stormed off the stage. The actress didn't know she was still sobbing, and her dress is on fire. The stage manager was very sharp, saw it, rushed back and grabbed the fire extinguisher, rushed on the stage. By the time she got there, two members of the audience had stood up. One man had taken off his leather jacket. They put the fire out on the stage. After a brief recovery period, the play continued. That's my best story. Here's Act 3 in a conservatory. We've taken away the circle of grass, the circle of carpet, and on the floor is this incredible painted pattern. Now, my friend Caroline Parker, who's now in her 80s, and I have painted this Rose Centre floor many, many times, and then painted it black for the next people. The best one that she wanted to do was, we were doing a black and white checkered floor, which is relatively easy to do. It's tedious, but you can do it. Caroline said, I think we should make it in perspective so that the stage looks bigger. You've got to be kidding. No, she said, I'll go home and do the maths. All right, I'll just paint it. So she came back, and she had all the maths all worked out. She set out the strings, and she drew chalk lines. And from the audience's point of view, the vanishing points worked, and we had a much bigger stage. This time I said, I want this dimension, and here's a book, and you can choose the one you want. And she did the maths again, and it took her ages, and we lay on this floor in a freezing cold day and painted this gorgeous curved pattern, which is fabulous. In the middle, the ottoman is now a pond with real water, a little wee water lily, and a goldfish. Now, I think the goldfish was carved out of carrot, but to be honest, I've forgotten. But every time you went past, you sort of went, and it swam a little bit, which was great. The pillars are in the back, and so on, and it's all round again, still all circles. And a story about adrenaline. I've said how much fun it is to be on stage. Adrenaline really gets you going and makes you sparkle. And in this case, what it did was it made the two boys really hyper. They were having a really good time. And I've just remembered that Mags, who's nodding, was the stage manager on the show. So They came on stage, the two boys at this point, and they had to sing a stupid music hall song, and they marched around this drum. And that night, about halfway through the run, they were so hyped that one of them put his foot right through the plywood. Also, they then got silly and they had a water fight, and they flicked water all over the stage, so that when Lady Bracknell needed to sit on the seat later, she got a wet behind. Adrenaline is wonderful, but it can also be dangerous, but you do need it. It's what makes you really sparkle on stage. You remember I told you the story of the dress that caught fire? Here's the dress about 10 years later. Now, it was very badly burnt on the hem, but like any good seamstress, the lady who made the dress had saved the little pieces of fabric, the offcuts, and so Kathy was able to do a swift repair and fix the dress, so it's still in circulation. And of course, a costume like that is just priceless because it's so beautiful. I really admire what Kathy did with this show. These are the last two pictures. Here's my father, aged about 30 in England, in Charlie's Arms. So he's playing a young university undergraduate who's got dressed up as an old aunt from Brazil, where the nuts come from, so that the aunt can be the chaperone of the two young ladies who are coming to afternoon tea with the other undergraduates. So here's my dad, dressed up as a little old lady, and here am I, at about the same age, maybe a bit older. So that just enchants me. I wish I could have got them both on the screen at the same time. And that, said John, is that.
Thank you very much, Anne, for coming along to talk to us and telling us such wonderful stories and having such good fun and really enthusing about what it's like to be in theatre. Thank you very much for coming to talk to us today.
Thank you, Max.